Today is the Marine Corps birthday, and on this birthday, we're going to celebrate it, if you will, with two parents, Stuart and Kathy Sheller, going to talk about their brave son, Stuart, Lieutenant Colonel of the Marine Corps, who right now is being treated as if he is some sort of terrorist from the Middle East. That's right. Take hold. This is going to be one hell of a show that's going to turn your stomach.
Why aren't the people in Washington putting themselves in harm's way? Why aren't they walking the walk as well as talking the talk? Their position in Washington is to do the will of the people. I don't see anybody in Washington doing the will of the people anymore. The only one who really puts his money where his mouth is Dennis Michael Lynch.
Hello, I am DML, and you are listening to the Dennis Michael Lynch Podcast. The exclusive sponsor of this program is DMLCBD.com. Go there today and get the best CBD products that can make you feel great again. This podcast is for independent thinkers who want to recapture the great American experience, and they know it all starts with sharing the unfiltered facts, truth, and opinions I give you every day. Today's podcast will both shine a light on the solutions that can fix our nation's biggest problems, and it will make you the smartest person in the room. Here we go.
Stuart Sheller has been to hell and back, and I'm not talking about the 17 years that he served as a U.S. Marine and still serves. The Marines are jerking him around in a way that is, well, dishonorable, unbecoming of a Marine Corps of the United States of America. I've never been more disgusted with my country than today. The interview that I'm about to conduct with Kathy and Stu Sr. will just turn your stomach when you think about how it is that this country is treating a U.S. Marine. Meanwhile, we've got illegal aliens, terrorists, MS-13 drug dealers coming out of this country at will, being treated as if they're royalty. This president actually wants to give illegal aliens $450,000. It's pathetic how the Biden administration and the U.S. Marine Corps and the U.S. Armed Services are acting underneath this administration. Well, you may recall that on August 26th, a very brave Lieutenant Colonel Marine, Stuart Sheller, got on social media. He knew he was going to pay a price, but he had to share his feelings. He was pissed off, disappointed, and he wanted accountability from the leaders of this country, of this military, of this Pentagon, in saying, why did we do what we did in Afghanistan? Why did 13 service members have to die? Why did we withdraw in the way that we did? Why are we dealing with the Taliban? He had a lot of questions. He had a lot to say. And now he's paying a dear, dear price for his bravery. I'm going to play a segment from Fox News highlighting a portion of his video. Take a look.
I'm not saying we've got to be in Afghanistan forever, but I am saying, did any of you throw your rank on the table and say, hey, it's a bad idea to evacuate Bagram Airfield, a strategic air base, before we evacuate everyone? Did anyone do that? And when you didn't think to do that, did anyone raise their hand and say, we completely messed this up? I want to say this very strongly. I have been fighting for 17 years. I am willing to throw it all away to say to my senior leaders, I demand accountability.
And that message resonated. Marine Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Sheller Jr. pleaded guilty to 6 misdemeanor-level violations of military law last month during a special court-martial after spending 9 days in the brig, saying, I will be held accountable even though my leaders were not. Now, in a letter, 12 Republican members of Congress are asking the Secretary of the Navy to grant that Marine an honorable discharge.
I am joined today by Stuart and Kathy Sheller. They are the parents of that brave lieutenant colonel that you just watched bravely stand up for his country and say, we want answers. They join me now to tell you what's going on with their son, because their son is not allowed to tell you on his own because he's under gag order. Get ready for your stomach to be turned. So I'm going to leave it to either one of you to give me the first answer here to the first question. How difficult is it for you as parents, knowing the fact that your son put his life on the line for people in Afghanistan and for his fellow Marines and other service members. How disturbing, how upsetting is it to you that your son right now is being treated in the manner to which he's being treated?
Well, most of the emotions go to me, so I'll answer that one. It's been so disheartening. It's been heartbreaking. In the beginning, when we saw this, because we've been here since day one, and when I saw what they were doing behind the scenes, a little thing went off in my head. Well, with all of this PTSD and suicides out there, they have to have a protocol. They have to see that he's in anguish and he's in pain and he's speaking out and he's looking for answers and he's angry, and they have to see this, and this is out of character for him. And then when I saw what they started doing immediately behind the scenes, it was everything I would do if I wanted to make someone have a PTSD throwback. We
went to his commanding officer in the first week, Colonel Emmel, and we said, can we help? How, he needs, can we come in and talk to him? Because he was still having Stuart come into the base from 8 to 4 every day. And, the message we got was, he's our Marine. We got this. You are not his next of kin. And so it was basically, get out of here, parents.
Okay, so now that we've established that, I want you to pretend as if somebody just arrived back from a moon trip and all they've seen is the video that I just showed. I want you to take me back from the moment that video goes online, goes viral, what it is that the Marine Corps has done to your son. So pretend as if nobody ever knew anything about this story. Now they know how emotional you are on it and that you've tried to get involved and help. Give me the story from day one. Video just went viral. Go.
So we are in Florida and we see the video online, and I look at my husband here, Stu's father, and I say, we need to go now. We put our suitcases in our car. We drove from Florida up to North Carolina. We were there at 6 a.m. in the morning when he opened his eyes. And I know him, and I knew that he's a man of principles. He's a man of action. He's a man of honor. He would not have posted that video unless he felt compelled from a very deep place within his soul.
It was very personal to him.
It wasn't an anger, as everyone thinks. I believe that God put it upon his heart.
Okay.
And he had to speak truth.
So for your listeners that just came back from the moon launch,
right?
We saw on August 26th the suicide attack at the Kabul airport, just like you and I saw, probably between 4 and 6 p.m. that Thursday evening. Okay. Our son was in his office in uniform at that video, and that was, and he was getting text messages, photos from the scene. He started in the 1-8, and it was the 1-8 that primarily got hit that day. He knew people in that unit. He said in one of his videos, he had a friend, a young man in that unit.
This was personal. He had been 17 years at the tip of the spear, either fighting, training people to fight, or everything he's done has been about combat for 17 years. And as he said, I've been fighting for 17 years. And he had been fighting for 17 years. And he had also been doing a lot with suicide prevention. And he knew that unless accountability happened at the very top, that there would be lots of suicides that day. It wouldn't just end with the 13 that were killed. And he was compelled. So we've had somebody ask, did you know he was going to do that video? I'm going to tell you, at 8 o'clock that night, he didn't even know he was going to do that video. His wife didn't know. It was an emotional response, frustration, and he didn't see our senior leaders admitting mistakes or accepting accountability. And yet the junior officers and the enlisted men, my God, if they lose a gun,
they're ridden out of the Marine Corps and they're written up.
When you go and you see him at 6 a.m., what does he say to you?
He said to us, someone I really respect as a father in the Marine Corps, because the Marine Corps was his family. Okay. Those were his brothers. Those were his sisters. His wife and he were both immersed into the Marine Corps. He loves the Marine Corps. He wants the Marine Corps to be a better organization. He had no intentions of trying to tear down the Marine Corps. But someone that he loved as a father sent him a text message and said,
a former commander of his.
Yes, said you should resign.
He said that you should resign.
He said, if you were an honorable man, you would resign.
He had no intentions of resigning until he said that to him.
But that hurt him. And this retired commander, I think his name is Hobbs. He's still very connected to the Marine Corps. So Stuart knew that this was the message he was getting indirectly from the leadership. And so his first video, he then went to do a second video after probably within a day, they relieved him of his command.
Within 12 hours, they relieved him of his command.
So he lost his job.
And he knew his retirement was probably going to be an issue.
He then said, I will resign. I don't want anything from you. Just let me go. I think it's best for us to part ways.
So, of course, they didn't accept his resignation. And then they made him come in from 8 to 4 every single day to sit at a job that was beneath his rank and his command. But he came in every day or he would have been listed as AWOL. They went about, I'm trying to think what all they did, so many things. They went about telling him, they leaked that he was a threat to his family and to himself without ever picking up the phone and calling him and saying, are you okay?
They made him go into the base and get a mental health evaluation, which he said, I'm not crazy. I'm not suicidal. They said, well, we think, so I hate to use the word smear, but the beginning of trying to make him think he was crazy, you had to have been crazy to do this.
With 22 suicides a day in the military, either current active or non-active, 22 suicides a day, it would have made the job really easy for them if they could classify it as PTSD and he went away. And we as his parents are watching this. We're watching
those first couple weeks, it was as if we were living a Jason Bourne movie. I'm not kidding you.
Right.
We had retired generals tell us, you should be concerned. We were worried that someone, they wanted to shut him up clearly.
Right.
And we were worried somebody would take him out. We had retired generals say it's not beyond the realm of possibility that they could and make it look like a suicide. This is what we were living the first month of this ordeal.
So let me just ask one question before I forget. So while this is all taking place, are you in constant contact with him on a daily basis?
Yes and no. No, he would send us, a word message on a private secure line. He didn't want to call us. He didn't want to involve us. He wasn't going home. No one knew where he was going. He was showing up for work and then disappearing. His wife and children.
I think he was nervous.
Yes. His wife and children left the state. The military went about talking to all of the other 05 officers and above.
So they then started an investigation.
Okay. How long? So the video. So just Stu. So this way, I get a timeline here. The video goes out. How many days until the investigation starts?
Probably 2 weeks.
Okay. So during that 2 weeks, he's in this remedial position. He's got to show up to every day, or else he's AWOL.
In a hostile environment.
There you go. In a hostile environment. You're hearing from the grapevine through different people, all, I guess, credible people, right? Retired. Hey, they could be taking him out. Hey, we got to watch him anyway because, PTSD, God knows we don't want him to be number 23. The Marines would like him to be number 23 of the day. They want rid of him. You've got these things as a parent going through your head. You must be, Kathy, you crying at nighttime?
Woman with heart problems.
I was a hot mess and I ended up with blisters all over my lips and then they started bleeding and I was seriously a mess, but I was angry as well, because in the back of my head, I'm saying, I can't believe this. I just can't believe what I'm watching. I know a lot about TBIs, not a whole lot about PTSD, but clearly, and I'm not saying that that's what this is. He was really angry, but the Marine Corps should have been able to reach out a hand. He even said in a later video, if they had just reached out and talked to me, I would have submitted. I would have gotten back into line. I'm willing to accept accountability for what I did, but that is not what they wanted. They wanted to destroy him. And I'm watching it, and I saw them pushing the buttons. He had an entrepreneurial business he had started with another Marine, and the Marine Corps had been lauding him as, this. He was an 05 officer with an impeccable record. He has a V for Valor, a Bronze Star. I mean, this is an amazing officer who's always spoken the truth. They were heralding him as this great person. He's doing this entrepreneurial business. And
the minute he spoke truth to power and criticized leadership, they went about trying to crush him.
Like that.
I'll tell your listeners one thing.
Go ahead. No rush. Take your time. Take your time.
Go ahead.
They took his product they said they were going to take his product out of the PX stores. So they talked to his business partner who initiated an ending to their partnership. So he had his wife file a separation agreement. He had his partner file an agreement. He had all of his officers start to say terrible things about him. The military was told not to stand by him if they said anything positive or stood by his side. Across all branches, there would be reprimands. Letters even went out to retired people saying there would be reprimands if you stood by him. So
his world was crashing those first 2-3 weeks.
And now that I understand what I know about PSYOPs, at the time I was seeing it and I didn't know what it was. Psychological warfare. Now that I've reached out to enough people, I've done enough research, what they do is that they have organizations and they try to influence your emotions, your motives, the objective reasoning, your behaviors. They separate you from your group. And this becomes more apparent as time goes on. But at that time, I didn't know what was going on. So he continued to post videos because he was just so upset and angry. And he couldn't believe this was happening with the Marine Corps that he loved. He was in shock. And let's be honest. He knew he was going against his command. He knew that it was wrong to do that, but he was afraid if he didn't speak out publicly, that at this point he'd be crushed.
He had already jumped off the cliff. At this point, he was building his wings on the way down. He had no option.
As a side note, I want to get now into the beginning of the investigation because that's when I cut you off. I do have a question though. Yeah. What is the business that he was in?
He had a product called the Perfect Ribbon. So all the ribbons that military wear on their chest, they put stars, or decorations
ribbons
in the middle of the ribbons. Okay. He created a 3D mold. He invented with a partner a 3D mold. Before you had to super glue them or you had to sew them. And most Marines aren't real crafty, right? Mm-hmm. So they created a 3D mold where literally you put this mold in and you can put the star right in the center. And by the way, if you don't have it right, you would get in trouble.
Demerits.
You'd get called out by sergeant major or whatever. And so they created this product, and it was a very successful product.
Very successful. It was in all the PX stores.
But within 5 days, they pulled it from all the stores as another example of trying to screw with him.
Sure. Now, so the partner now has it exclusively?
Yes.
Yeah. They
have a patent. They have a patent on it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. They reached an agreement to separate.
Okay. I got it. All right. So now the investigation starts. Go ahead.
So after 2 weeks, we returned to Florida. Stu said, I got this. I'm okay. I'm stable. Mom and Dad, you need to leave. I get a phone call from a colonel that interviewed me like he did 30 others. And I only will say two things. One, it was a very biased interview. He is leading me with questions to say, Mr. Sheller, a couple of his friends have told me he's bipolar. Could you speak to that? I said, excuse me, his friends said he was bipolar. Are his friends clinical psychiatrists?
Yeah, exactly.
Are you a clinical psychiatrist, Colonel? You're asking me, his father? No, we knew him for 23 years before he joined the Marines, never diagnosed with a mental health issue. You've had him for 17 years. You never diagnosed him. And you're leading an investigation with questions like, is he bipolar? Is he schizophrenic? That's bullshit. And I was screaming at this Colonel. Sorry for my language.
Oh no, we are profane on this show.
Okay, good. Well, then Kathy will be right at home. So then he went on to ask me, do you believe your son might be linked up with any, extremist groups? I said, are you kidding me? So this was the mode of questioning for this investigative report. By the way, the same investigative report that was leaked to the media right before his court-martial that also included his medical records.
And mental records.
So
all the HIPAA violations, but they leaked it to a newspaper so they could do a smear campaign before his court-martial.
What was what newspaper?
I'd rather not give them any coverage, if you don't mind.
They're not worthy of their name being said.
Okay, no, I thought. And
I will say, I will give credit.
Go ahead, Stuart.
That other media didn't pick it and take it.
Good. Well, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say, because I'd find it interesting to see. I mean, obviously, the Marines and they're working with the government, with the Biden administration. The way that they have, I've been in the media for 13 years. I've watched this happen countless times. And not the way it's happening with your son, but with other individuals. The number one thing that you have to do is rip all credibility away from the person you're going after. And that's obviously what they're doing with your son. They're belittling him. They're making him a mess. And I was just wondering the name simply because it's part of I wonder who it is that would just be so willing to do something like that.
Well, the court, I know I'm getting ahead of myself. The court-martial judge admonished the government and said, I believe an investigation should take place. And I believe the person or persons that leaked this document, it's criminal. And I believe they should come back to my court-martial court. Whether or not they will do that is yet to be seen. They haven't shown much honor or integrity so far to us.
So where are we now with this whole thing with the investigation?
Well, so I'm not finished.
Oh, Kathy,
it doesn't end.
Go ahead. You got the floor.
So now that they have, have the entire military turning their back on him and his wife. His wife has now taken the kids and moved out of state.
Wait. He's losing his wife and his kids?
Yes.
She's not up for this journey. So let's throw another stressor in there on
how did that happen?
Well,
we don't really want to talk too much about her. We love her. We love our grandchildren.
How many kids?
He has 3 young boys.
How old?
11, 10, 8, and 6.
Oh, they need their dad.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. But it was.
And so while she was out of state at her parents', he asked his commanding officer for a leave of duty so he could go see his wife and try to make amends. And he was told no.
Just another example. I have referred to the Marine Corps in the last month. I have said, Dennis, there's 2 stories here. The first story is Lieutenant Colonel Sheller demanding accountability. And, he's more qualified than you or I to call out the senior leaders for poor decisions. Mm-hmm. The second story is the toxic culture in the Marine Corps of how they've treated him since this happened on August 26th.
So I'm going to continue with what they did, because America needs to understand what's going on in their military. So now he continues to speak out. They take him to the brig. Of course, you go in the brig, you have to be strip searched and you're given your outfit. He asked his command on the day that he was taken into the brig for socks, underwear, necessities, which only the command in the military can provide. They refused to give them to him. He was put in solitary confinement, a small room with a little opening in the door. He was not given books, paper, or anything else, even socks. He was not allowed. We had one phone call for 90 seconds to call us to say, call my attorney and tell everyone. They kept him for the 9 days. They were hoping to keep him much longer. He was allowed outside 1 hour a day. There again, no socks or shoes. They had all other prisoners inside so they could keep him alone and separated. Because if you understand the PSYOPs, what they call MISO now, they ultimately want to change his behavior to be favorable to his command. And so, he's allowed to speak to his attorney only.
Couldn't call us.
No.
In fact, the funny part was Kathy called the jail and they said, well, because of COVID, he can't call you for 14 days. Excuse me, he can't talk on a phone for 14 days? Well, he has to be indoctrinated into the prison system. We asked Stuart after he got out, what was the indoctrination? He said, are you kidding me? They threw me a pamphlet and told me to read it. So it just
So this is going on.
This is the Marine Corps, the proud, the honorable.
A few good men.
This is one of their oath. This is level grade officer who's in the top tier on his way up, would have been a general. Absolutely not a mark.
That's mom talking. Come on.
Yes, but not a mark on his. It was an exemplary Marine, and it's heartbreaking. And then you wonder what would happen to someone else. So now they come in, and his lawyers are working really hard to get him taken out of solitary confinement and confined to the brig. Not to the brig, but to the barracks, to the base.
Take his phone away. You don't want him to post. Take his phone away. Take his computer away. Maybe keep him confined to the barracks so he can't leave.
They would not have it. Would not have it. They wanted to keep him they could keep him in solitary confinement for up to 6 months, could stretch it out to 8 before he was finally got his court martial. So finally they were able to work a deal for a special court martial if he pleaded guilty to all, people say 6, but I believe there were 9 counts.
No, there were just 6.
If he pleaded guilty to all 6 counts, which he was okay with. He knew he broke the rules.
He always was going to accept accountability.
He accepted his accountability.
He said that in the video. He said in the video. Yeah.
He said, I'll accept accountability. I know what I'm doing. So he was okay with that. They said, if you do a special court martial, you accept accountability, you plead guilty, we will accept your resignation and you will get a letter of reprimand. And then we will accept your, resignation.
You will get an honorable discharge or a general discharge under honorable conditions.
But we are keeping your retirement. And he was like, fine. He went to court martial. The judge was like looking at him like, are you serious? Because clearly you signed this, I hate to say duress, but you were in solitary confinement when you signed this.
Are you sure you want to plead guilty, Lieutenant Colonel Sheller? The judge was almost beaming to us like, oh man, maybe he shouldn't.
So the judge then looked at all of the evidence. The prosecutors just gave a few clips of the videos and a few comments, and he said, no, I'm taking the evening. He went through every video. He went
through
post. He went through his entire career, and he came back in the next morning and said, what I see is an exemplary Marine without a blemish on his record. Someone I have never had anyone in my court before with a record like this. He said He said clearly he was angry, he was frustrated, and someone should have talked to him and reached out a hand. I just, I've never seen treatment like this for this.
I've never seen anybody put in solitary confinement for 9 days, he said, for posting on social media.
So the military was asking for a $30,000 fine, and he just fined him $5,000 and the letter of reprimand because of the 9 days he served in solitary confinement.
But here's the catch. And by the way, today
sounds great, doesn't it? Like he's out.
And so at the media and even Stuart's attorney said it was a win. It was a win. The judge was favorable and fair.
Oh, we forgot to tell you he was under a gag order
you probably know 30
days.
So for the people that just came off of the moon launch, they also had him under a very strict gag order. In fact, the judge said, he goes, I've never seen a gag order like this. So what you're basically telling me is Stuart couldn't send me a photo of his dog in a text message. That's what the gag order, no communication. So
this is a man who fought for 17 years for freedom, and they can't give him freedom of speech.
So I don't know, where was I going?
So then the judge.
The day after, everyone's declaring victory. It's a win.
Yes.
And everyone's asking us, his parents, to kind of stand down.
We asked the question, so what's the next step? When do they sign this resignation? When can he go on and live his life? Well, it's the government. It could be months before they process this paperwork and sign it. And we said, what do you mean? You mean we don't have an end date? We don't have a time? No, but, and I'm saying, so let me get this right. It took them less than a day to relieve him of his command. It took them weeks to put him under a gag order and put him in jail illegally, and take him to a court martial. And you're telling me they could own him for the next 3 years? Well, they'll honor the plea agreement, but we just don't have a timeline. So we kicked back into gear, and we were asking and are asking Americans to contact the Secretary of the Navy, Carlos Del Toro. He is the person that will ultimately sign off. It has to go up through 4 or 5 generals, probably Commandant David Berger.
So we have a website, istandwithstu, STU.com. And on there, people are asking, what can they do? And in the meantime, for the people that were on the moon, we had a website up, a different one, and Americans were amazing. They raised $2.5 million in a week.
Basically
covered his entire retirement.
Covered his retirement, much of that will go to his wife and children.
Yes.
And his lawyers. But America answered the call, and they helped bring their Congress people in to help get him out of the brig, basically.
If Americans had not spoken up, if they had not made their voice known, if we had not gotten Congress involved, he would still be in the brig today.
Where is he right now?
He is in North Carolina here. He is still a Marine. He's on a leave of absence right now.
They don't really want him on base getting fist bumps, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
So they have him off. They're, like every 10 days, they're renewing his leave of absence.
We hope, because when he did have to go in, it was incredibly hostile.
They just renewed or reissued his gag order literally yesterday. Lieutenant Colonel Sheller would have loved to have wished all of his fellow Marines happy birthday on the Marine's birthday today, but he can't. He's still under a very strict gag order. So on behalf of him, I'd like to wish the Marines a happy birthday.
So a couple of questions for you with regard to what's next. I mean, so he's not in the brig anymore, which is great. He's under a gag order. We don't know how long that's going to last. They keep on extending this period of time every 10 days. When you speak to the lawyer, what is the best case scenario for your son right now?
They don't say. It's up to the military. So all we can do as Americans is to pressure and say, I mean, we would love to see him free by Veterans Day, but we know that's not probably going to happen.
I'll give you the inside scoop. I'll give you my theory.
His theory.
Go ahead.
It's just a theory.
So these generals, they have egos.
Sure.
Big ones. They have to have a lot of confidence. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And they're angry. And Stuart caused them a lot of heartburn.
Yep.
And embarrassed them. And they're mad.
And no one disagrees that what he said was the truth. They just don't like that he said it publicly.
And the top Navy prosecutor came down for this court martial, and I think he might have been a little embarrassed. The judge admonished the prosecution for taking things out of context and the way they handled this case. So the Marines are mad, and they didn't do real well in court, and they thought his punishment was too light. So they're not in any hurry to make his life any better. they would just as soon make an example out of him. I think they already have for the last 2.5 months. I personally think I've heard there's probably 60 Marine generals 07 and up, all the way to the commandant. I've heard from insiders that probably half of them are mad as hell and would like to see him in front of a firing squad. The other half realizes this should have probably been taken care of and made to go away 2 months ago, because they're getting a black eye. Yeah. This is going to hurt recruitment. I will tell you, David Berger, the commandant of the Marine Corps, just today or just yesterday, issued a statement about the changing of the Marine Corps, and he had 3 priorities. One, he called out a toxic culture in the Marine Corps. I was somewhat pleased with that, because for a month now, I've been saying I'm witnessing in the front row a toxic culture. He apparently knows it. They're going to start to put in 360-degree performance appraisals for officers. Corporate America has been doing that for 25 years. Marine Corps is a very top-down command and control model. But he's basically saying that they've got some bad leaders in there that, unless we get input from the bottom up on their performance and their behavior and their leadership. So he mentioned that toxic culture. He mentioned diversity. And there was a third thing.
It doesn't matter, but
no, you just
he mentioned sexual abuse, sexual abuse and harassment of the 10% in the Marine Corps that are women.
And I personally, that's just wonderful, but that's not helping my son. I am glad that we were able to shine light on a toxic culture. I'm glad that our son has been strong enough to live through it and not put a bullet in his head, which I don't know what those other generals want. Do they want him in front of a firing squad or a bullet in his head? What more do they want him to give? He gave 17 years of his life. He's given up his family. He's given up his command. He's given up his retirement. He's given up his freedom. What more do they want for a Facebook post? And if that's not a toxic culture, I don't know what is.
Yeah. Another question here that comes to mind. So again, for those of us who are not lawyers and aren't close enough to this whole story to understand. So if they sign off, your son gets out with an honorable or general discharge, which is the equivalent of having a nice clean record. Nobody wants to have a dishonorable discharge, because in many states you wind up being treated like a felon. I mean, he won't be able to vote. He won't be able to carry a firearm, different things of that nature. With that in mind, if he was to just say, you know what, screw it. I'm just screw it. I got to move on with my life. They're jerking me around here. Is he allowed to just walk away at this point and just say,
no?
The Marines own him for 3 years.
He would be AWOL. They could go arrest him and put him in jail. They would love that. They would love that. In fact, they would love him to post. Part of this plea agreement and the gag order was he cannot go on social media. So they would love to continue to poke him, so he would maybe post or say something, and then they could throw him in jail.
So is he still on the payroll? I mean, they still paying him?
Yes.
Okay.
They're
So
not letting him free. And I'm telling you, it's psychological warfare. They're trying to destroy him mentally. So is that how you treat your officer? I've had Marines contact me and say, I worked, with prisoners of war, and this is what we did to them.
Right.
They're treating their officer as a prisoner of war.
The shame in this, the hurt in this, aside from what's happening to your son, and I've got a special place in my heart for Marines. I'm in all the armed forces, but there's something about a Marine. You hear about, if somebody would say to me, all right, who do you want? The Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine? I said, send in the Marines, and and I don't know. I've never been a Marine myself. My father is a 1-9 Marine. You said he was in 1-8. So my father's a 1-9 Marine, which is also known as the Walking Dead. And the impact that the Marine Corps had on my father, it just doesn't hit my father. He's got PTSD. He's an alcoholic. He suffers from drug abuse. He's a freaking mess. And he's been, excuse my language, a fucking mess ever since the day he came home from Vietnam. And, I always say he didn't sacrifice his life in the sense that he died. he sacrificed his life that he's walking around, but he's dead inside. And I can't have, as a kid, a cap gun, because if I had a cap gun, my father would jump, hit the deck, and everybody was, a gook. That's the way he talked, right? He was so fucked up from being in the Marines. What they did to him was so fucked up. At the same time, is we need people like your son, right, on the front line. We need them to keep us safe. It's almost out of that, that movie from Tom Cruise, A Few Good Men, right, where they said, you need me on that line. You need me on that line. And as much as they built your son up to be a warrior, to be a protector of freedom in the United States of America, they are just so happily ripping him down because he called them out in something that the whole entire world knows was just done so stupidly. It's not like he stole, it's not like he stole the secret codes to the nuclear bombs and gave them off to Putin. All he did was to say, we have 13 people who just died because what did we do here? He called them out. And now they want to destroy his whole fucking life. It just bothers me. You said how he raised the $2.5 million for him, and a lot of it's going to his wife, and a lot of it's going to go to the freaking lawyers, and he's not going to see a whole lot. I say bullshit. When this is all over, what you have to do right now, you're building an incredible network of media personalities, okay? People who, you got a lot bigger people than me, but I can tell you get Dennis Michael Lynch, you get Sean Hannity, you get Tucker Carlson, you get some of these other radio guys. Once they take the locks off him, I am telling you, we will have the biggest fundraiser for your son of all time. He needs to be a multi-millionaire and enjoy the rest of his life and take care of his parents and his boys. And who knows, maybe there's a reconciliation somewhere for him and his lovely wife. If not, he's still going to move on. But he needs to be rewarded for what I think was some of the greatest bravery I've ever seen in the past 10 years. I mean, in the past 20 years. What he did, I remember watching the video. I remember sitting, that's my job. We ran the video on our website, and I sat there and I said, man, you know what? The balls on this guy, this is what we need, man. We need people calling stuff out. God bless him. I'm so pissed off that this country is allowing what's happening to your son and then they're going to make him into a fucking domestic terrorist. They're going to try to make him into one of these crazy nutbags, and we just got to push back and not let that happen.
And that's what we as his parents, he can't speak, and we're not a mouthpiece for him. But as his parents, we are not going to stop and let them destroy our son's mental health because they have nothing better to do.
Good for you,
and
Kathy.
We grew up during Vietnam, and we're not going to watch that go on. And he survived 17 years of being shot at and doing violence for our military. And he's taught others 17 years. He never questioned anything. And he came through that. And has said, I don't have PTSD. I have what is it?
He says, I have post-traumatic growth. I'm stronger for it.
And he's been he was helping other Marines and other military over the suicide rate. He was trying to teach other military people to follow their dreams and start their own entrepreneurial business. So when they got out, they had a purpose. He's a good man. And they're trying to destroy him.
So let's talk about, we've talked about the last 2.5 months.
Okay.
He's going to get out.
Right.
Eventually. And our prayers and our hopes that nothing bad happens between now and then.
Oh, yeah.
But we are very, first of all, thank you for your kind words.
Yes.
We appreciate it. We believe his future will be very solid and very strong. He is a leader. Mm-hmm. We're encouraging him to write and journal. There are things he wants to say, and it's therapeutic for him. And I think there are things that Americans would love to read. So he has lots of options in his future, and he will be on the scene, and he will make an impact in the future. I promise.
Go ahead, Kathy, and then let me give you some of my expert advice when it comes to
very intelligent man. They haven't broken him yet. If the 17 years in the sand, because he wasn't in an office, he was in the sand. He was in the tip of the spear. If those 17 years didn't break him, and the military hasn't broken him with their psychological warfare, he's going to come through this stronger. I don't know how he's holding up, but he is. And his cup was pretty empty for a while there, but we're trying to fill it back up with love. And there again, America has been amazing.
Yes,
Well,
for us as well.
So a couple little things here. I mean, it's not like you have to take notes. You could always watch this back. And I don't know what other podcasters and other media personalities have been telling you, whatever.
Well, I will tell you, Dennis, Stuart will be watching this too, so you can talk to all of us.
All right, well, I'm going to talk to him directly. All right. So let me just say this to you. Behind you'll see there's 2 DMLs on top of the red one. I'm pointing the wrong one. I'm looking opposite. So on top of the red one, there's a trophy. That is the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award that I received. So that's like the Oscars for business. So with that being said, let me tell you, I know a lot of things about media. I know a lot of things about politics, and I know a lot about business. All right. I operate 3 businesses as I talk to you, a charity, and I understand this stuff back and forth. First of all, what your son has to be doing, and if he isn't doing it already, he's got to start today. He has to be journaling everything, because he will forget, and he doesn't want to forget anything, every single last little tiny detail. And he should be making voice recordings on top of that. And what will happen is, I am telling you, I have a friend of mine who just got paid $115,000 up front from one of the top book publishers to write a book about how athletes father their children. Okay? Your son will be paid millions of dollars for his book. He will be paid millions of dollars for his movie rights. So the most important thing you need to do, Stuart, and I call you Lieutenant Colonel. Lieutenant Colonel, the number one thing you should be doing is journaling everything. Trust me when I tell you. That's number one. Number 2 is, I can guarantee you that you will, if you decide not to be an entrepreneur, you will be hired. You will be hired easily. I remember the first time that I saw the video, I did a Facebook Live. I don't keep my Facebook Lives up. I eventually delete them all for reasons that have no position into this conversation. But I did a Facebook Live about your son. And I said, if you're listening to this, Lieutenant Colonel, I will hire you for any one of my businesses. So I am telling you his future, just from an entrepreneurial standpoint. And when you said he had a business, you know what I did? I don't know if you saw it. I started jotting down, all right, what does he do? Blah, 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 blah. Because as an investor, as somebody who gets behind businesses and somebody I want to know what the hell he's doing, because you know what? He's such a great person that I know he would be a success. He's somebody that people would invest in. So right now, things may seem as if it's like everything of his life is falling out underneath him. His wife is gone. He's not seeing his boys. He can't talk. He can't say anything. He's only got his great mom and dad, which is a big thing out there saying things for him. At some point, the darkness is going to erupt with bright light. And Stuart needs to be prepared both mentally, physically, and with the journal that I told you about. If he does that, I promise you, your son is going to be one of the most well-known, greatest people that is in media. They will put him on television. He'll get a contributorship to Fox News, or he'll wind up getting a podcast with somebody major. I swear to God to you, if I had $1 million right now and I had to bet it about whether Stuart is going to be a name we forget or Stuart is going to be a name we all know, I would put the full $1 million on betting on his success. And I don't say that for the sake of saying it to you. I wouldn't have to say it. I could just say, well, thank you for coming in today. And no way. Because you know what? People get, you see how passionate America has been. Okay.
Yeah.
And, when you get, and there's a lot of people who have stories. I was telling you about the stuff with my dad, and we're talking about today being the Marine Corp birthday. And we talked about this before we went live. And I said to you, what did I say to you? I said, you know what? My dad's out today somewhere drinking, getting himself drunk because he's got the PTSD. So many of us have somebody in our life who has served, and we watch what the military does to these people. And I am telling you, I go out of my way. If I see a Marine having dinner, I don't care if he's with 30 people. I pick up that fucking bill every single time. And yesterday, I guess I'm going to tell you this story. All right, now I'm rambling. Yeah, I was in Key West over the weekend. My wife and I just celebrated our 28th wedding anniversary. So we
congratulations.
Thank you. So we went down with our kids. And I always go for a walk in the morning. So at 8 a.m., I don't know if you've ever been to Key West before, but there's a naval base down there.
Yes.
So at 8 a.m., they play the national anthem. So I'm walking down Duval Street, and a man, probably your age, Stuart, he's not as good looking as you, but he's walking down the street, and they start playing the national anthem. He stops in his tracks and gets into his military position and does not move. Now, I'm still walking and I'm seeing this. And as it stops, I turn around, and then the man goes about his business. The discipline, the love of country, we're missing that in America these days. And so many people want more of it. And your son represents that. So I am telling you, people will rally behind your son even more than they already did. So you got to keep the faith. You got to keep on being his messenger. You got to keep on telling everybody what the websites are. What are they? I Stand with Stu. I am telling you I am telling you right now, and you have this recording. You ready? I have what's called the DML Foundation. And I take a percentage of every sale I make from all my businesses, and I put it into the DML Foundation, and I give away money to causes I believe in. I am telling you right now, hands down, when your son is finished, he is to contact me, or you contact me, and I am going to donate $25,000 to whatever it is that he wants me to donate it to, whether it's his next venture, whatever it is. I will donate $25,000 to him.
You're awesome.
I'm telling you that right now.
You're
Bullshit
awesome.
what they're doing to him. Bullshit what they're doing to him. Final word to you, Stu. Final word to you, Kathy. Focus in on your son. Go ahead.
Well, we can't thank you enough. We know he's going to come out stronger, and we just want to keep Mama's health good for the next couple months.
Come on, yeah.
We want to get back to our semi-retired life, and
but until they quit, we won't quit.
We won't quit.
Now, are you in Florida? Are you?
We have a home in Cincinnati, Ohio, where we raised our family, but we have a business down in Cape Coral, Florida.
You're in Cape Coral. Okay.
Yeah, we do VRBO properties for vacationers.
Oh, you do? Well, Cape Coral is on the Cape Coral is on the.
It's right across the river from Fort Myers.
Okay.
Across the state from Miami.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay. Right, yeah. So yes, Stuart is strong. He's freaky smart. He's very intelligent. He's a great writer. And they're going to rue the day.
Yeah, they are.
All right. Well, make sure
if something happens to him, I'll write the book. The book will come out.
There you go. I mean, look, that's the most important thing. I mean, we got to make sure that
the story, and we appreciate you helping us tell the story.
Hey, no, listen, anytime you want to come back and give me an update or anything else like that. So I just want to give the websites one more time. So it's istandwithstu, STU.com. Okay.
Yes. So on there, you can find his statement that he read to the judge, a very powerful statement. Basically, you asked us to describe what the Marines did to him for the first month. His statement prior to court-martial explains that in a very, very emotional way. It's his attorney's statement. We have an area where you can get the information for the Secretary of the Navy, and you can write him and ask for his release.
And be respectful. Be respectful. I mean, that's important. We forget that as Americans sometimes, but respect goes a long way because we want something from these people.
Yes. Well, I'm going to tell you a few things here. Let me just say how we're going to try to help you out here on this. All right. So I'm coming through all the different things in my head. First of all, I told you at the beginning here, you were going to just be the tail end of today's show. You're the whole show. So we're going to put you on there. Then I have 1.5 million people who follow me on Facebook. I never take my podcast and put it up on Facebook ever. That's going to change. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take this entire podcast. I'm going to put it up on Facebook to those 1.5 million people. So hopefully we get them to move. Yep, you got it. Next thing I'm going to do, and this happens all the time. I can't tell you how influential we've been on certain things. I am going to write a letter to the Secretary of Navy, Carlos DeToro, and then I am going to put that letter on Facebook and ask people to basically copy paste if they don't know how to write it themselves. And I want them to send it in. We're going to make a massive push to give this guy some pressure under his bottom to take care of your son the right way. It will be a professional, scathing letter. And with that being said, if there's anything else that you need from us, you let me know through Lori, who reached out to you. And I'm telling you, Team DML, that's what we call it. Team DML will be behind you 150%.
Thank you. It's so important that we shine a light into this darkness and get him out on the other side. And so many others that this happened to a grade level officer and of two parents that were willing to go out there and speak. There are so many that have not been spoken for. I'm sure he's not the only one.
Of course not. I've done films.
And I will say this to you as well, and your listeners. Let me just say this.
Go ahead.
Stuart spoke up initially because 13 young people lost their lives on August 26th. So I would ask all your listeners to pray for those Gold Star families, those parents, those brothers and sisters. Some had children, even though they were young, and our hearts go out to them. And he was standing up for them and all other enlisted people that had fought in the last 20 years between Iraq and Afghanistan. But especially, we'd like to say prayers for those 13 families.
At the end of every show, I say a little prayer. It's always the same every time. So I've never done it with a guest before, so I'm going to do it with you there, and you could just end it with an amen, and then we'll shut down. So I appreciate your time today, and as always, may God bless you, our troops, these United States, your family, and then I always add to it at the end. So I'll say, and to Stu, his beautiful wife Kathy, and his very honorable son Stuart. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. And you just made me cry. Thank you.
Stay healthy.
Good. Thank you very much, sir.
Stay healthy. We'll see you soon.
You're a proud American. I appreciate you.
We'll see you soon.
I just want my baby free.
We'll get there. Thank you.
You got it. Bye-bye.
This podcast is produced by Anita Griffey, Lori McLean, and yours truly. And you could subscribe by going to the Apple Podcasts page and search for Dennis Michael Lynch Podcasts. And make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Or you can download the DML News app from the Google Play Store for Android phones and the Apple App Store for iPhones. And do not forget to visit our sponsor, DMLCBD.com, so this way you can feel great again.